One thing I do see a lot of misconceptions about in Starfield is that time is relative and it's not really elaborated upon, and a lot of people get the idea that it is meant in the same way that Einstein meant it when he said time is relative, and that we're experiencing some kind of time dilation going on based off of the mass of the planet we're on, and experiencing time differently. This is not the case in Starfield. So in Starfield, time is experienced as a constant. It's not changing, it's not variable at all. But it is relative in a sense. It's relative in its representation. So, how we measure time in Starfield. So, time is represented relatively based off of the planet or moon you're on. And it's based off of that planet's or moon's day and night cycle. So, if you think about our time system, it is based off of 24 equal pieces of our day and night cycle to make up the hours. Basically, that same thing is being done to whatever planet or moon you're on. So if the planet has a very long day and night cycle, you might get a scenario like Venus where we're it's 100 hours for 1 hour to pass on Venus. And that means that its rotation takes about 100 hours of UC time to complete an hour of rotation, or an 1/24th of spin in its day. So essentially, if we look at Jemison and we look at Venus, Jemison is going to spin 100 times in the same amount of time it'll take Venus to spin once. So it'll experience 100 days before Venus experiences 1 day. And it's not because time is flowing differently on these two different positions, it's just because Venus is just spinning slower. If that makes sense to you, I hope it does. So what does this mean for the player? This means that day and night cycles vary from planet to moon. So some of them will experience a longer day and night cycle, and it will take you a very long time to experience things like the sunrise or the sunset. Conversely, some planets or moons have very short day and night cycles, and essentially you can look at the stars whipping around the night sky. Right now we're looking at an eclipse, and I did go ahead and I time-lapsed this, but this is an example of a very long day and night cycle. This eclipse takes place over about an hour. So, and in game, how much time are we seeing pass on this planet? About an hour. And it's substantially longer than like the Jemison hour. As you know, a lot of BGS games, when they say an hour, it's more like 15 minutes. I didn't go ahead and exactly time how long it takes for an hour to occur on Jemison. I'm not going to waste my time on that, but it's significantly shorter than an Earth hour or a real-time hour. It's about 15 minutes. But here we're watching this eclipse occur, and it does take about an hour in real time, and I believe this is like a 40-to-1 ratio of time. So an hour on this planet is 40 hours on Jemison. And it's not that we're experiencing time dilation, it's that the planet's just rotating significantly slower than Jemison is. So it's that simple. But I guess to move on to another topic on time is I've seen a few complaints about like Constellation gives us a watch and we don't have the ability to tell time on it. You do. Unfortunately, you do. So it's an analog watch. I know a lot of people are used to digital watches, and a lot of people have lost the ability to read analog watches. And this is quite an unusual analog watch. It's not your typical analog watch, but it's an analog watch that works perfectly for Starfield. Because what this watch is telling you specifically is the position of night and day on the planet. So if you look at the bottom left hand of the screen, you'll see like the little representation of the constellation watch there. And we can see in the circle in the middle, we see that it's divided into day and night. So right here during this eclipse, this is morning, this is sunrise. And we can see it's basically equally divided between day and night. This represents sunrise. If we see the opposite of this, where we see night on top and day on bottom, this is sunset. If we see it completely filled with day, that is noon. And if we see it completely filled with night, that is midnight. So let's explain. Sunrise typically occurs at 6 in the morning on planets. So when we see it split between day and night, perfectly like that, where the day's on top and the night's on bottom, and we know the sunrise is coming, that is 6 a.m. If we see a full circle of day, that is high noon. And then if we see the opposite of what we're seeing now, where it's split between day and night, but night's on the top and day's on the bottom, that is sunset, and that is occurring at 6 p.m. And then if we see that circle completely consumed by night, that is midnight. So you do have a watch in this game, and it tells time, and that watch is relative to the tile you're on. For example, if I went and fast traveled to the exact opposite side of this planet, we would be at sunset. And that watch would be flipped. We didn't experience any time whatsoever occur, and in fact, we could watch the same eclipse, though it would be in a different position of the sky. But the eclipse is going to occur on the planet at the same time. It's not going to occur 12 hours later for a different section of the planet. When you're fast traveling, no time is passing, at least on a single planet or moon. If you're fast traveling with your grav drive to another system or to another planet, you might see time pass. But on the same planet, you do not see any time pass whatsoever. And I've done this several times filming a lot of these eclipses, and essentially time does not pass when you're fast traveling, which is kind of a good thing because sometimes I'll have the camera set up and I want to tweak the position of that planet relative to the horizon line, so I can fast travel without the eclipse having already occurred, you know. So that's kind of how time works with fast travel on the same planet. It does not advance. It might advance if you're grav jumping or you're jumping to a different planet. I don't think it does, though. I think it stays the same. And that is also how your watch works. So you do have the ability to tell time, and it is relative to your tile that you're on and the day and night cycle, and it's basically just expressing where in the day and night cycle you are at that current location. So when we say time is relative, its expression is relative to what planet you're on and where on that planet you're at. We're not experiencing any kind of time dilation at all. So I hope I've cleared up any misconceptions about time in Starfield. But if you do have like any further questions about that or confusion, please comment below and I'll try to clarify it. If I need to do some experiments, I can. I probably actually already have the footage. So if you did have like a question, I probably have footage somewhere that would answer your question, so I could just review back. If you do, feel free to ask. If you found this informative in any way, go ahead, give me a like and subscribe. But yeah, this is how time works. It's a constant in the game. It's not a variable. So the only thing that is variable is how it's represented. It's represented locally to the tile, and it's based off of the day and night, and the unit of measurement is also relative. So what we mean by an hour is relative to the day and night cycle of the planet. We're not experiencing time any differently anywhere within the game. And I hope that brought up a lot of clarities for you, so have a nice night.